This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is sharing the message that connection is crucial because good relationships are an essential and sometimes overlooked component of mental well-being. If your relationships could use some strengthening, a licensed therapist from Talkspace can help. Therapy can help you communicate better with loved ones, repair conflicts, and understand how to address loneliness and build community. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a therapist within 2 days. You'll meet with your therapist online on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make personal connections a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Hey guys, Matt here for a quick second before we start. 30 years ago, radiation from my cancer treatment felt like someone put an easy bake oven in the Chernobyl control room and said, fire it up. My skin came out somewhere between rotisserie chicken and Deadpool's face. The official recovery plan was a bathtub full of Vaseline and walk it off. You look great. So yeah, skin health became a thing for me. And that's why I partnered with Codex Labs. They make skincare products for compromised skin, including people going through cancer treatment, by focusing on the skin barrier and the microbiome instead of fragrances and marketing hype with fancy logos. Look, I'm just a guy. I want soap that works. Soap should be soap, lotion should be lotion, cleanser should be cleanser. It shouldn't create new problems when you already have enough shit to deal with. With Codex products, my skin feels better, my wife loves it, my daughter steals it, and I only put my name on things I would hand to another cancer patient. If you would like to learn more about Codex Labs and their products, visit MatthewZachary.com/Codex. That's MatthewZachary.com/Codex and use code Zachary to save 15%. All right, let's get to the episode.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show. My guest today is Shlomit Liberty. So at 19 years old, she woke up one day unable to speak. Half her body was numb. She went to the ER and basically got sent home with a, good luck, kid. Years later, she's still in the ICU in hospital rooms watching families nod along like they're pretending to understand the plot of the movie Tenet, except the stakes are not nearly as confusing as time travel. Shlomit is a speech-language pathologist turned professional translator of medical jargon. She spends 15 to 20 hours a week on one case alone, reading charts, decoding doctor speak, and explaining to families exactly what just happened after the team disappears like Kaiser Soze. She has seen how discharge decisions get made, how the 48-hour rule plays games with your wallet, and how you are stable often means we need your bed for someone with better insurance. I wanted her on the show because she lives in the moments right after the credits roll when the system moves on and you're left holding the paperwork. We also get into why brain injury does not kill your ability to curse, why language is weird enough to make your high school French teacher cry, and how Dora the Explorer somehow ends up teaching clinical communications. Buckle up, get your Yiddish on. My name is Matthew Zachary. This is Out of Patience. Let's get started. My first question, why is life so fucking hard? I'm kidding. We know that already.
Oh, I was prepared to answer
that. All right,
that.
I want to hear your take.
I really don't have an answer.
Because if life were easy, we'd just all do it. Right, Yogi Berra?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and also, that's life.
Yes.
I mean, if it was boring, what would we do all day? We're just like sit there, stare into space.
You believe in the law of opposites?
What is that?
that you can't have good without bad?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There just must be for there to be.
I think as a younger person, I really objected to the idea because I always believed in just like good.
Mm-hmm.
But as I get older, I do believe in more relativism and kind of, looking at the world in a more complex way. So I think I do believe in it.
So aging helps.
Aging is amazing. Aging is a gift. And it's really a gift of the further we get with medicine, generally speaking, for those of us that it actually works.
Right.
I feel that it's such a gift to age. I think I'm much happier today than I was 20 years ago. And I would never go back. I think aging is really the gift of life, really.
Well, it's kind of all you got, too.
Yeah, exactly.
What else is going to happen?
What else am I going to do about it?
You drop dead. What's that? Lichtenred? Is that the Yiddish? Yeah.
I have to ask my
I just
my dad.
overjewed my throat. Excuse me for a second.
Sounded scratchy back there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love your name, Shlomit.
Thank you.
This is the Jewish episode for those listening right now.
Welcome, everyone.
Oh, gewalt, right? The veal. Hey.
It's very Jewy.
Shlomit is a beautiful name. What does it mean?
It is the female form of the word shalom. Shalom means hello, but actually it means peace.
Yes.
So it's like a she-peace kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like He-Man and She-Ra.
Exactly.
Okay, just like that.
Yeah, you would think my parents are a big pacifists. Not really.
No?
I mean, not on the contrary, but yeah. And it's an older name. So I'm Israeli, and it's kind of like the equivalent of a Meredith.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
you won't find a lot of young girls today called Shlomit.
Right. So what is the modern day Shlomit? Chana, is that still a thing?
Oh, no.
That's long gone?
Maybe if you're really like a real hipster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have kids. What are their names?
Their names are Nevo, Abigail, and Amalia.
Okay. One of them is Jewish.
I mean, they're actually all biblical, although we're not religious.
Okay.
Nevo is actually the mountain that Moses stood upon when he looked down at the Holy Land and was told that he can't enter it.
Wasn't that Ararat?
No, it's Nevo. And
Okay.
I think today it's maybe modern day Syria or something.
Probably.
I'm not sure. And
Can we
Abigail.
mention those names anymore? I don't know.
I
That's
don't
a rough
know.
area of
Well,
the world.
Yeah, but there is a church up in Harlem that's called Mount Nebo. So it's the same name, essentially.
I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah. and Abigail and Amalia are biblical. Abigail was King David's wife. I think she's the only woman in the Bible that was described as both beautiful and smart.
I'm like reverting back to Hebrew school in 1984.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And Amalia
Aleph,
means...
Bet, Vet, Gimel, Daled. I'm done. We're done. We're done. Enough.
Yeah.
We've outjewed ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I know you through a common friend who was also on the show, Ophir Kagan.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was on the show, she was a young adult cancer survivor with a startup, a brilliant mind. She's like, I have to have you on the show. And like, I don't want another speech therapist. I married one, but you're so much more than that. And there's so many things to talk about. And yes, this is kind of the Jewish show in a sense, but I want to understand what drew you into this particular line of work before you got into the sort of the patient advocate space. Mm-hmm. What compelled you into medicine?
So I started off being fascinated by languages and the brain. So for my first, I've been accumulating degrees, unfortunately. So for my first
like
BA...
a lint roller.
Yeah, exactly so. So 10 years of academia. So the first BA and masters were in linguistics and cognitive science. And I was working at a lab at the university, and we were doing research on how people learn and how is the brain functioning under a functional MRI when they're reading and learning new languages, etc. And in my head, I always thought that one day I will be a therapist and I will be working with people that went through some kind of acquired brain injury, and I would help them speak again. And actually, it came from a personal experience of mine. I don't believe we ever shared that, but...
Right, there's only 19 million people listening, so go ahead.
Oh, go everybody. Yeah. Okay, everybody listen up.
Yeah, there's not 19 million. My dad is listening. Go ahead.
All right, I won't get too intimate. But what happened was when I was 20 or 19.
So last week.
Just around the corner. I woke up and I couldn't speak. And the right side of my body felt completely numb and my face felt numb. And I was horrified. My parents took me to the nearest emergency room and they looked at me and they said, no, she's just stressed. I don't know what kind of stressors they thought a 19-year-old would have.
Causes that symptom. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, really. And send me back home. That was my first real experience with healthcare at the time. And
Good
then
times.
it was really, really reassuring and I felt amazing.
You felt seen.
So seen. And then the next time it happened was 2-3 years later when I was living on my own and in university. And it happened again. And then it was accompanied with a paralyzing migraine that I've never had before. And then that kind of triggered a more in-depth assessment and MRI, et cetera. And I will say that each time it happened, I lost my ability to speak and read and write.
But who needs those?
So ancillary.
Yeah.
So that lasted for about half a day. And then it spontaneously recovered. And then I was diagnosed with what's called a complex aura migraine. And, fine, they change your hormones and make
Aura
sure
sounds like a nice word. That didn't belong in there. It's like they called my tumor elegant once. Like, really?
See, they find these cutesy little words to describe the most horrifying things there are. So,
Oh, it's a cute little aura.
So it's such a cute little aura. And also, just magical.
Yes.
But what happened was it fascinated me. I mean, the first time that was actually when I was drawn into the world of brain function in the context of language. I was like, how could that be? Because I understood almost everything I was being told, but I could not communicate. I could curse.
That stuck.
Profanities are great. And you see that today. I mean, and we're going to talk about what I actually did for a living for the past decade. But yeah, curses are preserved and they're
Why is that?
They're believed to be housed in
in all languages?
Yeah. So when you go through some brain issue, because it can be transient, it can be a real injury, and you lose your language capacity, it happens in the left side of your brain. But they do believe that cursing, like singing, for example, are preserved in the right side of your brain. This is where they're housed.
Wow.
So when things happen on the left side of your brain, you can still curse really beautifully. And you often see it. So in the emergency room or when you're working with patients that have gone through a brain injury and they are unable to utter a word, what is called global aphasia. They can't utter and they can't understand. What is preserved is cursing. So that's wonderful.
Is that similar to, so my wife's grandmother was a pianist her whole life. Mm-hmm. And toward the very end, she had dementia, senility, had a hard time knowing what to do, but she could sit down at a piano and just play as if it was like 70 years ago. Is that similar?
So I'm not sure it's exactly the same. So with dementia, what happens is that it really affects the entire brain.
Okay.
But there is, the notion of music being so central, even in people with dementia, is known. I don't know if they really know the biological, physiological reason for that.
Right.
But it is fascinating.
So if you have a brain injury and you can still curse, do you know you're cursing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I felt
so
bad. I was, profanities all over it, and I covered my mouth and I kind of gestured, I'm sorry. And a lot of my patients were the same.
So I read that you speak 4 languages.
Wait, where'd you read that?
I don't know. The Google? Am I accurate?
The Google has everything.
Yeah.
I speak a few. I mean, I'm a former linguist and I always love languages. Some of them I speak pretty well and some just very basically, but I can get by in several languages.
So what's the country you'd go to where they'd be embarrassed to have you there because you're trying to speak the language?
That's easy because that already happened.
Oh.
That was Russia.
Oh, boy.
And the people at the market, the vendors, really laughed when I pluralized bananas the wrong way. They thought it was the funniest thing they've ever heard because I used the regular form of pluralization. Silly me. So that's easy.
So Russian is one of those like ish
ish
languages.
languages. Yeah. I used to be better at it, but time went by.
Why Russian?
Well, in Israel, where I grew up, there is a mandatory army military service.
Yeah.
And I chose to be, and I was very lucky that I was granted the role that I hoped for, which was the equivalent of a social worker. And I chose to go to one of the more challenging bases that there are, military bases. And that base had mostly former USSR soldiers that just came to Israel. So most of them did not speak any Hebrew. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn Russian to speak to them and to their families.
Except for the word bananas. You were looking to get into linguistics because it was interesting to you as a young student. And then you got fucked by it, literally, when your brain turned on you. But then, how did you recover? What was treatment? Or you still?
There
but
was
you look
no.
great. You still look great. Like, where are you at right now?
So I recovered spontaneously within a day.
Spontaneously.
Yeah. It just turned. They later found out because it's such a strong migraine, some blood flow to your brain is stopped for a little while longer than it does in a regular migraine.
So it wasn't an ischemic incident?
It wasn't really ischemic because there wasn't actual obstruction of blood flow, but there was some delay in it because of some narrowing of one of my arteries.
But it was just random?
Yes, probably related to hormones, but they really didn't go through so much testing.
But you were so young, though.
But I was on birth control.
Okay.
And that they told me I need to stop, and I stopped. And it only happened once more around pregnancy and breastfeeding of my children.
Were you an at-risk person when you got pregnant? Did they have to monitor you because of this history?
No, but if I ever choose to go on hormone replacement therapy in about few years when I reach menopause, then I would be high risk.
Do you feel like a ticking time bomb?
No, not at all.
You're just at peace with
Should
that.
I?
mean, we're Jewish. If there's not a problem, that's the problem, right? Is that how it's supposed to work?
I don't. Sadly, I don't feel like a ticking time bomb.
No, that's wonderful, though, because you could very easily panic out on all the things.
I really, really try hard to, and my husband's going to laugh at it because he's going to say that's absolutely wrong. But I do try to focus on those things that I have the power of controlling and changing. And, I do my best not to think about those things that I don't have a lot of control over.
Are you always this zen?
When I'm outside of the house, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, the kids and everything, right?
Yeah, especially when I'm at the hospital, when I'm working. Yeah. This
is just you with the universe centered?
Pretty much.
How do you reconcile? What's your dogma? I mean, we're both Jewish, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, we kind of make your own Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't be an asshole.
Exactly.
It's my theory in the world.
Exactly.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm not a religious person at all, but I do believe in the good that this world has to offer and in human connection and kindness. And I think that's always what drew me to do any single thing that I've done in my life. I was always kind of like a social activist and this and that. It's always been around trying to help people out. And just the specific avenue keeps changing, but I do feel like that is basically what keeps me kind of centered. Just looking at the other people on the street and trying to help out.
I'm just getting a human Xanax vibe in the room with you right now. You're calming me down. How do I get you on my healthcare plan?
Just give me a call every morning. We'll have a 5-minute.
I'm really serious. It's still, first of all, Jews and calm are not the words that go together most of the time.
Well, when I'm helping my 8-year-olds get ready in the morning, I don't think Zen is a word that you would use.
That's any religion. Find me the most Taoist Tibetan monk that has a 6-year-old loses their shit. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
I think, in all honesty, it has to do a lot with perspective.
Yeah.
I grew up in a country at a time where it was very scary to grow up.
Well, it's always scary there, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was especially where I grew up. I don't want to get into details here, but really it was, you kind of experience things that are profoundly scary, scarring, and then you move away because you feel like it's too much and it's not an environment that I would like to raise my children in because I don't want them to go through what I went through. And then I come here and then I immediately get pregnant as an, freshly, new immigrant. And then I have a child. And then a few years later, I have identical twins in a very high-risk pregnancy. And I feel like these things kind of, and as this was happening, I was building my career, and I just felt like, I always had perspective in life. And I see,
But starting out in like a hardened society like Israel really matures you, gives you perspective. No one wants to be in a situation that gives you perspective the wrong way, but that's a community, that's a culture where you're born into needing to have chutzpah.
Yeah. And, maybe that's the silver lining in all this.
Yeah.
It just turns you a little tougher, more resilient, and just some more perspective.
Well, when we get back after the break, we have to talk about raising twins.
Yes,
which is
another things we haven't shot.
I got to get the bourbon for that one. Speaking of yelling at 6-year-olds, when there's 2 6-year-olds to yell at the same time, and they're both shitting in the opposite direction at the same time on purpose. All right. On that note, we'll be right back after the break.
All right.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
Not to be a stereotype or anything, but I am one of those go, go, go girls. So I have so much stuff that's always on my plate. And I always try to grab something on the go after the gym. And it's always so hard to find something that's actually going to be good tasting and good for you, right? Because every time you grab a protein bar that looks like it's going to be okay, you flip it around and you start to read the ingredient list, and it's all sugar, and it's all stuff that you can't even pronounce. All I want is something good to eat. IQ Bar is the better for you plant-based protein snack made with brain-boosting nutrients to refuel, nourish, and satisfy hunger without the sugar crash. IQ Bar has low sugar, low carbs, and it's actually really good. Optimize your mind and body with IQ Bar's clean, functional products like protein bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Go to IQBar.com today and enter promo code BRAINIQ to get an exclusive offer just for our listeners. 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. That's IQBAR.com, promo code BRAINIQ. IQBar.com, code BRAINIQ.
I'm going to have you explain what you do for a living.
Yeah.
I look at people who have to undertake these types of professions as yet another example of American healthcare's utter systemic failure.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. What do you do? What's your day job? And why did you choose that?
Yeah.
Besides being a phenomenal gute neshama.
Thank you. So I feel like I cannot do that without providing a little bit of background.
Yes.
So as you said, I'm trained as a medical speech language pathologist, and I spent the last decade working mostly in acute care hospitals, much of the time in intensive care units in ICU, doing endoscopies and X-ray studies to diagnose and treat swallowing disorders and the other things you imagine a speech pathologist would do with somebody with a acquired brain injury, for example,
right,
or went through a trauma, etc. So during these years, when I spent time at the bedside, I was very lucky to be able to spend longer time than most providers, because if I do an endoscopy, I go in there and I prep, and hopefully the family's there because we try to coordinate, and then I perform the procedure, and then after I review it at the bedside, and then we talk about what I found, what I saw, what my recommendations are, and I train them in exercises to rehabilitate what's needed to rehabilitate. And during that time, you see medical teams come in and out, and they're kind of, hey, sorry, can we jump in there? And they're my friends or my colleagues, and all the different medical specialties come in and out. And I was very lucky to mostly always work in university hospitals. So these are training hospitals. Right. So you have a big team coming in with the residents and the fellow and the attending. And they come in and they say, hi, Mr. Zachary, today we see this and this. We're going to do that and that. We're going to from here, we're going to go to rehab. We're going to, and then you're going to go home. Do you have any questions for us? And usually, 99% of cases, the patient and the family kind of shake their head, maybe give a little thumbs up, and they leave.
Right.
And then they look at me and they say, what was that?
Yes.
They're deer in headlights. So they really, could you explain, what did they mean by subacute? Is that like the best rehab? What do they mean by this procedure? Am I going to be intubated for that? Do I have to stay in the ICU for that?
Yeah, because they're talking medical academic and we talk people.
Exactly. And the thing is this, I've seen this happen with the best medical teams and the smartest doctors and the most caring providers. But it's really about how the system is built today that really does not allow you to spend a lot of time. And, I risk being repetitive because I know your podcast and I've listened to it, and I know this topic comes up, like the burnout, how stretched thin everybody is, but it's real. And everybody in it experiences that day in, day out. And then I just started feeling, hey, I love spending time with my patients and walking them through things. And, I stay in my lane and I don't step on other people's toes. But I say, maybe we can ask neurosurgery to come back again and maybe explain that. Or maybe I can help you understand the different levels of care because I've worked in all of them. And maybe if you're contemplating on going to this rehab or that, I've actually done endoscopies in both, and I can tell you the differences between them, and then you can make a decision. And they looked at me, and every day I had a patient or a family say that, you're the only person that took the time to talk to us about this. And that broke my heart every day. Mm-hmm. So at some point, I pretty much felt like my values don't align with the system anymore. And I have to find a way to help people. So I tried doing that from within my hospital system. So I really, I spoke to my superiors and they said, you just need to show that there's more medical need for more staff, for more this, for more that. And I did it. And in a month, we increased our orders that other providers were reaching out for us by 300%.
Whoa.
But guess what happened? They said, oh, no, we don't really have money to hire more people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, okay, that kind of did
so
not
much for that.
Backfired. And I just felt like, these systems, I'm not a systemic person. I'm not a person to fight windmills. I know what I do well. I'm a clinician, diagnostician, and I'm a people's person. I'm a helper. So I'm going to find a way to do what I feel. And this is exactly what I do. So with a very heavy heart, because I loved the hospital where I worked, I decided to leave and turn to a field that I did not know existed, because I have never seen a patient advocate in the hospital, not in New York, not in California where I worked. But I met a wonderful friend of mine who is also a little bit of a mentor that has been working in the system longer than I have. And I told her what I would like to do, kind of guiding people through their hospital stays and kind of quarterbacking this kind of overwhelming negative experience for most people. And she said, it exists. It's called a patient advocate. I met one once, like looked like a unicorn.
Like Santa Claus.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a leprechaun.
Yeah. And then I looked into it and I found out there's a board, and this board is comprised from doctors that many of them are doctors that chose to leave the profession because of burnout, because they're not meeting their patients' needs and goals. And I kind of fell in love, and I haven't left since.
It's just, I mentioned this before, this is something that shouldn't exist in our country and is so endemic of what is completely wrong.
I'm nodding so strongly. It's
on the
hurting
radio.
my
You're
neck.
nodding on the radio.
I'm nodding on the radio.
We're all nodding on the radio.
Yeah. And in a perfect hospital system, you would not need somebody like me.
Right, because their job is to squeeze every ounce of blood out of everyone at any cost for profit.
Exactly.
And at the expense of care.
Exactly. And that comes down to not spending enough time with patients. At the hospital where I worked, and one of them, you used to get a monthly email, and that email said, "Dear Shlomit, this month you saw 9.6 patients a day. Here are some tips for increasing your productivity." Now, you got the same email if you saw 3 patients a day and 100 patients. That doesn't matter.
Right.
You're being pushed to spend less time with patients and also with profit. So most profit comes from outpatient services. Right. So the acute care setting does not give you money. Exactly. So they want you out so they can just move it. And that's why people really try to keep you within their hospital system. But I always felt that was really unethical, because it's oftentimes they're not well positioned to treat your specific diagnosis. And you need somebody who's independent to be able to look at your case and say, here are the best places. And there's nobody in the hospital can help you with that, really.
Which opens up the unholy conundrum of asking a patient to pay more money out of pocket to get less fucked.
Yep. Which is truly heartbreaking. And to be honest, for me, being in the business of charging for my service is really something that I feel very uncomfortable with. I do have dreams of one day making this like a nonprofit and being able to offer this service, free for everyone. I'm working on it. I'm not there yet, but that would be my dream.
Yeah, but the umbrella here is the very fact that whether it's oncology, rheumatology, speech, cardio, whatever it is, you have to pay out of pocket to help you basically figure things out for you when the system should be doing it for you. The system knows it's cheaper to have you do it, but they don't want to and would rather have you pay more money to do their job.
Yeah. So I feel like some hospital systems have been trying to do something that they kind of pretend is that. They have hospital-based patient advocates. They have ombudsmen. They have patient services. In my personal experience, now there could be these unicorns out there. They do things differently. In my personal experience, whenever I work with them or when I involve them today with my private clients, they're usually kind of there to prevent escalation of a difficult situation. They don't want people leaving against medical advice. They don't want people suing the hospital. So that's usually when they're called in. Many of them are not clinically trained. So they are more kind of client forward facing professionals. They're about kind of keeping the peace, which is very different from what I do. I'm not there to start a war by all means, and I'm really not a very conflictual person, but my role is very different as an advocate. So my allegiance is to the patient client, right? The family. And my role, the way I see it and the way the patient advocacy board sees it, is providing people with all the information that they need in order to make an informed decision that is consistent with their wishes and goals. And anybody who's been in the hospital knows that this is not what the hospital is trying to make you do usually. No. So there's a lot of in-depth discussions with the families and with the patients, and a lot of understanding of what each discipline is now targeting, what their barriers are, what exactly they're doing to solve the current situation, and kind of being the interpreter for all that. So you asked me what I do, and what I do is essentially I manage the medical crisis. I live in my patient's medical chart and I'm at their bedside. So I spend on average 15 to 20 hours a week with a client that I work with. And I know every single thing that is written in their medical chart, all the blood work, all the imaging, every single note that is entered, I know it. And I translate or interpret it to my patients in written form in like 1 or 2 sentences. It's a 5-page document. It's going to be 2 lines. This is what they're seeing. Here's the plan. And here are the questions we need to ask to understand if this is the best option for us.
What's even worse here is that not only are you doing the job of the health system, but by educating these patients, the health system then saves money based on the work they're paying you to do their job for.
Yeah. And actually, it's even more wild than that, because clearly my role benefits the patient, client, and the family, but it also benefits the providers because I used to round in ICU. I spend 2 minutes talking to the doctors, they leave, and then I spend 30, 45 minutes with the family explaining everything in the background and the context. So I have always found that the experience with the medical providers has been nothing but positive, and it's always great for everybody. So even more so, I save the hospital, even, doctors' time and productivity.
You think they would pay you too?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the problem, because once they pay me, I can't do my job.
Right.
Yeah. So that is kind of the paradox.
If you had to build a pie chart and slice it up into like the top 4 things you help a family with, I know there's no one size fits all here, but are there trends you're seeing? Is it this bucket is dealing with prior auth? This bucket is dealing with compliance. This bucket is mental health. How would you figure out your pizza slices?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't deal with insurance unless I have to. But sometimes when it comes to discharge, I will do that. But generally speaking, I feel like it's easier for me to think about it in the context of why do people reach out to me? So it can be there are too many medical providers that are not communicating with one another, conflicting medications, contradicting recommendations for surgeries, all that stuff. So they need somebody to be able to quarterback the different medical teams. And the primary medical team or the admitting team, they don't always do that effectively, sadly, with our system today. So that's one thing. Another thing that I often get calls for is they're trying to kick me out and I need more time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, on almost daily basis. I have calls like that. So I don't feel like I'm well enough. This is not, say, a safe discharge for me to leave. And they're trying to kick me out and send me to this random rehab place that I know nothing about. Like, I need help. That is another thing. Another, and maybe like another third of the pie chart is people saying they're trying to send me to a subacute facility, meaning a skilled nursing facility with a lower level of rehabilitation, expertise, and intensity. And I was completely independent before. I want to go back to being independent and living on my own and fulfilling my, of my goals. I want to go to what is called acute rehabilitation or intensive rehabilitation unit. And they don't know how to do that because they don't have the jargon. They're not rehab professionals. And they need me to come in and kind of look at the case and see how we are maybe going to advocate for that, rebuild our goals, talk to physical, occupational, and speech therapy because they're the ones that are essentially recommending which level of care, etc. And there was a fourth part of the pie that I don't remember now.
Okay, you're aging gracefully.
Yeah.
But you look great.
Thanks.
I think the whole they're trying to kick me out is really tragic.
Really?
Of all the things, I mean, there's levels of dumb fuckery, but that's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
They want to kick you out because you're costing them money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another aspect of it that's even more heartbreaking for me is that they won't admit me. And I don't know if you know that, but there is a 48-hour rule that if you are admitted and discharged with less than 48 hours stay at the hospital, it is under the umbrella of what's called observation. When that happens, there is a much lesser involvement of Medicare. So you're responsible for, I might be mistaken, but something around 80% of that hospital stay. But if you're admitted, you don't. So if you're admitted for longer. So if you stay there, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, so they find the loopholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I gotta say, I don't feel it's ill-intended. I don't think that the hospital, like the doctors look at you and they say, well, it's been less than 48 hours or more and let's keep him here. They're kind of scheming in the back. I really think like they just don't think about it. It's just like, oh, well, she really doesn't need to be admitted, so we're not going to admit. And they don't understand how much time had passed. Like, it's just not on their radar.
Well, I'm pro doctor. I'm pro provider, pro medical professional. Hippocrates, I guess this is where I'm oddly always optimistic. Hippocrates, I believe, is always top of mind if you are practicing medicine. And it's not those people. It's the system itself that says, get this person out of that bed.
Yeah. Or even that issue of why do people need to pay more if they've only been there for 48 hours? Like all these silly rules that...
Money.
Yeah. Money. It's all money. It all comes down to money. And I feel like, we're located in New York City, and I feel it much more here than I did on the West Coast.
Yeah, you spoke about how these hospitals put together these in-house concierge services. But as much as I really want to be optimistic that they're there with good intention, they're there to still to save money.
Oh, absolutely.
With the agenda and the priorities of the system.
Absolutely. Having
third party is really important because you're the neutral arbiter. But again, it just speaks to the failures that you have to exist in the first place.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you.
Before we get to the bonus round, I'd like to end on a high note with what you would consider a true success story.
All right. So I will say this is a success story, but it's a very standard story because honestly, it's really nice that most stories are a success because once you pay attention to the detail and you advocate effectively, things go the right way usually. So this story, I had a client, an elderly gentleman, very active, highly independent, brilliant, that had a minor stroke, really minor, admitted to the neuro unit in a hospital in the city. But he also is a chronic GI patient, so it has significant geriatric complications. So he stayed there. They were not happy with the care. They were not happy with the nurses. They felt like neurology is not following them well. And then what happened was they really wanted to move to another hospital. And my role was to try to understand how we're going to make this happen, because usually you move from one hospital to another only if there's a higher level of care that is needed, and this hospital cannot provide that. And that wasn't the case for him. So we actually connected to his longstanding GI doctor that has been following him for 20 years. And these complications were getting significant and were kind of overshadowing his entire care. So she was able to pull him, but we kind of triggered her. We found out what the process was. I made sure she had the number of the transfer center. We communicated with the team at the local hospital. And it was really like a smooth, beautiful transition. We just needed to wait for a bed to open. And when we got to the other hospital, things did not go really well. So there were conflicting medications. So I had to physically be there and kind of hold, no, cardiology actually said, don't give this medication. Oh, GI actually said to do this and this. And then he was getting better, but still not eating much because of his GI issues. Mm-hmm. But he needed to go through really intensive rehabilitation. They said, he's just too weak. We just can't let him go to the highest level of rehabilitation. So he's going to have to go to a subacute. And I knew, looking at this man and with my experience in this, like, he's going to fade away in a subacute rehabilitation. He needs to go to the highest level. And that started a spiral of advocacy for how are we going to get him primed. So we got nutrition involved. I made sure the nutritional came, and we kind of, the dietitian was wonderful. And we talked about how are we going to make him eat more, get more calories, get stronger, so he can actually stand up with physical therapy, so we can have higher goals for him. And I spoke to the physical therapist and occupational therapist. How are we going to build the goals to say how he's actually meeting them? Let's involve speech therapy to work on his swallowing and cognition, showing that let's see what his needs really are and see if we can support him with that. So it was kind of really motivating, because if you looked at him, just another skinny old man fading away. But if you knew him, this man is a world of its own, and just like this brilliant, fascinating man that has so much to give. And that really, really helped. So kind of pulling everybody in, making sure they know him, bringing pictures of his friends and family when he was young, when he's on a boat, kind of like triggering conversation to see what he's like, making sure his hearing aids are fully charged in his ears so he can show them how brilliant he is and how much fight he has in him. So it was kind of orchestrating this whole scenario to make sure he is positioned to go to the place he wants to go and not just be thrown out to the nearest skilled nursing facility. And that's exactly what ended up happening. He got to go to the top place he wanted and was doing beautifully with the rehabilitation there. And just a few days ago, his daughter sent me a video of him walking at home and just going out in the world. And he did not believe he would ever walk again. And it happened within, 6 months, back to doing his daily walks. And that could not have happened if that plan of care and that journey would have been what the medical team had intended initially.
I consider that a success story.
Thank you.
Well, I consider that a success story, proving once again that doing the dirty work of the health system helps people.
Yeah.
God forbid it did it itself.
God forbid.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our bonus round, closing up the show. Are you familiar with what's happening?
I am, and I'm very scared right now.
Okay.
All
right. For the new listeners, I asked my AI a couple of questions about my guests based on my sentiments and what the internet says. And the question is, if my guest were a Netflix series, what 3 pop culture characters would embody her character? You are, according to the internet and AI, Holly Hunter from Broadcast News.
Oh my God.
So like pre-Incredibles Holly Hunter, traditional pre-Fargo Holly Hunter, Fast exacting, and impatient with performance over substance. You read the room quickly and hold a high bar for clarity and competence.
All right, okay. I'll take that.
You are the late Nora Ephron.
Oh, I just died. Hold on.
Sharp observer of human behavior, she notices how small details reveal larger truths and understands that systems break down in ordinary moments.
Oh my God, this brings tears to my eyes.
And you are House.
Oh, you killed me. Okay.
Brilliant at pattern recognition and uninterested in polite narratives. House pushes past surface explanations to get to what is actually happening, even when it makes people uncomfortable. AI for the win again?
Oh my God. AI? I mean,
Holly Hunter, Nora Ephron, and Dr. Gregory House?
Yeah, or just you, Laurie. I'll take just you, Laurie, even without the character.
Okay.
Yeah. Amazing.
All right. Well, there you go.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
I don't know how to outro you, but I'll just say you are professional patient advocate.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Patient Path NY.
NYC.
Patient Path NYC. We'll put a link in the episode notes.
Amazing.
I hope you don't need her services, but the way this country runs healthcare, you probably do. Thank you, Shlomit, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Godspeed and good nachas.
Yeah?
Why not?
Okay.
What shall we worry about now? All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay, bye, everyone. Bye. See you next time.
Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is a production of Matthew Zachary Worldwide. The executive producer is Matthew Zachary. It is mixed and edited by Kyle Moore. If you like the show, ratings and reviews are always welcome wherever you get your podcasts. If you have guest suggestions or would like to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, email podcast@matthewzachary.com. For more information about Matthew Zachary and Matthew Zachary Worldwide, visit matthewzachary.com.